record the meeting. And I don't know if anyone else is going to actually show up. So I might just dig in, and then what I thought that we could do is just talk about the human aura, and we're going to read the first 2 chapters tonight. And the setup for it is really the fact that we've been working on the 4 pillars to be able to introduce people to the teachings of the Ascended Masters. So I'm going to stream us live as well, so that way others have an opportunity. Francoise is here. I knew it. I bet Deb will come too. All right. Francoise, great to have you with us. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. I'm just in a hurry because I know I'm a little bit late, and there was a family matter that I needed to organize before I enter in, so sorry.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you for showing up. We've got Jerry and Michael here with us, so it's picking up for last Friday. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you this evening?
Yeah, fantastic, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Look how colorful and fruitful all of this looks with the foliage in the back. And look at your necklace, Francoise.
Oh, yeah, it's all colorful for the Thursday day.
What's Thursday?
Thursday is 6 ray.
Oh.
Purple and gold, so that's my fantasy.
I love it. Did you guys know that there's a Colors and Numbers book that Louise Hay has?
Yes, I know.
And is that connected to the teachings, or is it different?
No, it's not.
Is it false hierarchy?
Honestly, it's a mixing of many things. So it's interesting. If you don't know the teaching, it's interesting. It opens your eyes, your mind to many things, but it's not exactly the same thing.
I love it. It just occurred to me that we 4 are here, and we've been connecting and are part of the ones that put together the experience that we're about to offer people. So I'm hosting the meeting, and I've got the audio to play of the first 2 chapters. And then what I would like to do is actually ask some questions around it and then talk, kind of like what we do after the stumping reading in our meetings. Kind of do that kind of thing here, but kind of almost come up with the questions together. And then also give people that are listening who tune in on Facebook the opportunity to be able to, ask any questions or share insights, which is why we're going to go live over on Facebook. But I didn't want to do that right as you were coming live, so that it was like you go live and it's like, what do you mean? I'm just figuring out, I'm getting oriented and we're already live. So sometimes people don't like that, right? So how does that sound to everybody?
Fine.
Yeah?
Okay.
All right, fantastic. And would you actually like to introduce the website, Michael or Jerry? I'm not attached. You guys definitely put more effort into it than I did. I was kind of part of the mastermind, the thought part, but you guys actually made it happen. So,
Michael would be very good at that. I think he knows a lot more about it.
I've got it right here. So once it's ready, I'm just going to bring up the 4 pillars, and then we're just going to go into pillar 1 and kind of give the breakdown. So I can do I'll just do a 1 scroll down and kind of give an overview of it once we're live over on Facebook, if that's fair. And then we'll dive into the pillar 1 and say that tonight we're going to do chapters 1 and 2. And then we've got the chapter links. And then do you want to say anything about the fact that we're on, CUTAC, and we've been working towards this or on this, or anything?
I don't know. I think I might like to let you see how it goes. Since you'll be doing the introducing it numerous times, maybe perhaps you just want to practice.
Yeah. Okay, no problem.
So, yeah.
So I'll just give an introduction to the website, and then the good news is that we'll actually then have this for the website, and then we could actually use this as part of that data capture that I had talked about.
Okay.
Because then it's like the pictures of us. It's like we've got the 4 pillars, and we're going through pillar 1, and then this week we've got all of us in view. So showing up has literally just helped with helping people recognize you in the community. So it's for common unity. So this is wonderful. So all right. So in that note, then I'm just going to go live over here on Facebook. So first mastermind. So soon in a moment. Oh, Jalissa. Hello, Jalissa. Welcome to the meeting, Jalissa. Great to have you here today. We're just going live over on Facebook, so perfect timing. Now I have the screen sharing because we have a treat in store for us tonight, and that is the 4 pillars of wisdom for the age of Aquarius, which is what the human aura represents the first pillar too. So we're going to be actually going through the pillar 1 of chapters 1 and 2 in this, but we'll do it on there so you can actually read along. And I have it already narrated from earlier in the year where I did it on Thursday nights. So we're going to go through the first 2 chapters, and what I'm asking everybody to do is to be able to write down any questions that come to you, any insights, anything that triggers something inside of you that could help somebody else understand something at a deeper level. I don't claim to have all of the answers. I just believe that we need to be getting access to this information. So this is the revised version of this, because this version also includes the 4th pillar, which is intermediate studies of the human aura. So book 2 is actually in this book now. And then the other 2 pillars are also in the same book, which I don't have next to me and should have brought smartly, but we always learn by doing. And so next time I'll do better. And so this is the human aura that we'll be reading. And this website you can actually go to yourself, 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca. And then each of the pillars obviously has a different end, but taking you to the 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca will at least get you here. And then you can actually go through and you can buy the book on Amazon so you can go through it yourself. And then we have all 12 chapters listed out here with a short description and a chapter link. So you can click through to the chapter link, and then what I'm going to do is play the first, I'm going to play the first chapter. Are there questions or comments? I can't see those because I'm in full screen mode. Let me just see what everybody, your birthday is in February. Oh, fantastic. An Aquarius. Sweet. Michael Seekers and I actually did a video in the Michael and Laura show, and it was about the birthday and how it relates to the cosmic clock. So if you haven't already went to our YouTube channel, well, it's a playlist on my channel, so under Laura J.E. Hamilton, and then you'll be able to flip through to where I remember there's a birthday prayer that you can read. So if you want to check that video out, I just was catching up with the chat there. And then tonight we're going to go through this chapter and then also the next chapter. So it'll take about 20 minutes of reading, and then we're going to talk about it, and we can have comments or questions that come up after chapter 1. We'll lump that so that chapter 1 and chapter 2 both happen after the second one, so we can kind of have more information to ruminate on and then come together at that point. Does anyone have anything that you'd like to say or ask before we actually get to the reading piece of this first book study on Kuthumi's The Human Aura?
Just to thank you for putting this together. We're looking forward to it.
Oh,
Yes.
good. My pleasure. We will get ourselves started, and I'm just going to play the audio of me. It would have helped for me to have, I got onto editing something else before I flipped it back. So now we're back onto the aura. Woo. Life is so full, right? It's either full of something that we intend for or something that we don't. All right. I'm just in my little music player, and I'm trying to do a lot of things at once, and you know, sometimes we multitask well and other times we don't. Oops, there we go. You can't see what I'm seeing though. Oh, I guess, well, you don't need to see me reading it the first time unless you'd like to, but it'd be more advantageous for you to actually follow along with reading. So we'll let you do what's most beneficial to you. And there we go. Back to the beginning. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. The Human Aura, Book 1, Kuthumi. Chapter 1, The Perfecting of the Aura. As we commence these auric studies, let it be understood that the combined manifestation of body, soul, and mind creates around the spinal column and the medulla oblongata those emanations called by some the human aura and by others the magnetic force field of the body of man. Let it be understood by all who read that each individual in whom is the flame of life reveals himself as though he were to shout it from the housetops. All that he really is, all that he has done, and even the portent of that which he shall be, right in the force field of his being and in the magnetic emanations surrounding his physical form. The reading in depth of the human aura is no ordinary science. Those who would undertake to do so should understand that by a simple change in thought, the fountain of the human aura, which pours forth from its own orifice, can change its color, its emanation, its magnetic affinity, its complete identity. Yet at the same time, it may retain beneath the surface the capacities to poison the atmosphere of the individual or the auric emanation within by virtue of his failure to cleanse himself in heart. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is more than a beatitude issuing from the mouth of the living Christ. It is a fiat of strength shining promised to all who behold it. We have pondered the great need of humanity for purification, and we advocate above all the purification of motive. But when individuals do not see clearly just what their own motives are, it becomes exceedingly difficult by reason of their own internal blindness for them to purify themselves. Therefore, the purification of the faculty of vision has been given top priority by the masters, because it has been our experience that when men learn to see as God sees, they perceive the need to correct their problems and in most cases do so without further delay. In the matter of our brotherhood, those unascended devotees who wear the golden robe of cosmic illumination, who in truth are illumined concerning the many subjects ordinarily hidden from the average seeker on the path, are expected to perform more advantageously in directing their lives according to the instructions issuing from their lips. A good example is the best teacher. Now, what is the object of humanity's desire to read the human aura? Is it simply to satisfy some quality of human curiosity, or do they find satisfaction in perceiving the wrongs of others without correcting their own? All who undertake this study of auric emanations and of the human force field as it pours forth into space should recognize the creative nature already existing in mankind. By the misuse of the creative nature, men have fabricated in countless lives undesirable and unwholesome conditions which plague their youth, disturb their elders, and in no way contribute to the growth of the quality of human life as originally envisioned by Almighty God. The hope of the world as the light of the world is to be considered. The world today emanates an aura not at all resembling the Christic aura of the universal Christ consciousness, and the bulk of the people remain in ignorance of the simplest cosmic truths because the powers of darkness that are in the world have accomplished the distortions of the scriptures which they desired long ago. Man's interpretation of his relationship to the divine involves itself in pagan anthropomorphic concepts. God is seen as being appeased by sacrifice. Even so, men fail to understand the true meaning of sacrifice. In the case of the Master Jesus, because of the perfection in his nature which he clearly perceived, he did not require any propitiation for sin. Yet he is portrayed as one who is able to save to the uttermost those who believe in him. Those who understand the meaning of God, Christ, and life from a real standpoint see that there is no difference between the divine nature in Jesus and the divine nature in themselves. They understand that there is no partiality in heaven. All can equate with the image of the beloved Son. The 99 must be forsaken, for they already possess the strength within themselves to perceive this truth. And the one who is lost, caught in the brambles of confusion, blinded to his own reality and the inward radiance of the divine image, must now forsake the false doctrine of the blind leaders of his blindness. He must heed the voice of God and return to it. Through our auric studies that we are releasing herewith, we anticipate that many shall find their way back to the Father's house. There they will perceive that they must present themselves a living sacrifice unto God. It was never the Father's intent to collect penance from humanity, nor to exact a form of sacrifice as appeasement of his wrath. For the only wrath of God that is valid in the cosmic courts of heaven is that karmic recompense. That weight of sin which imputes to humanity the darkness they have created, acceded to, or acknowledged. In reality, man lives in a universe of light and purpose. To veil that purpose from man was never the intention of God. For he has clearly said, that which has been hidden shall be revealed. In this sense, then, the higher sense of releasing the divine knowing within man, who in reality is both the knower and the known, do we finally establish the reality of God within the consciousness of the individual, thus producing right there in man the perfection that he craves. It is amazing how by ignorance men are thwarted in their attempts to understand life, simply because they do not know, they do not find out. Therefore, as our beloved Master once said, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given and shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he has. He spoke of understanding. This most precious treasure we shall attempt to bequeath to you in our releases on the studies of the human aura. All who read should bear in mind that we cannot increase the knowledge of those who do not first invoke it from the throne of grace. It is of utmost importance that the student understand that there is a process whereby every observation of his five senses is transmitted automatically to subconscious levels within himself, whereby inner hieroglyph events he has witnessed or matters which he has studied are recorded. Thus, the entire transmittal of data from the external world to the internal lies in the akashic records of his own being. The process of recall, while quite involved from a technical standpoint, is almost instantaneous. Out of the storehouse of memory, man quite easily calls forth those treasures of being. Unfortunately, not all events are benign. Not all recordings are examples of perfection. The sorting and classification of these records is the responsibility of the body elemental and the recording angel of the individual life stream. You will find mention of the recording angels in the words of Jesus when he spoke of the little ones. For I say unto you that their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Each individual has such an angel representing the purity of the infinite God, assigned to his life stream by divine decree from the very foundation of the world. This angel has the ability not only to read the life record of everyone upon the planet, but also to commune directly with the heart of God, to behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Thus, the intent of God to reveal himself unto the angel of his presence attached to each of his children operates through the Holy Christ self in perfect harmony with the divine plan. How unfortunate are those who, while always perceiving the height and depth of man, are never able to become impersonal enough in their approach to endow the least of these my brethren with the quality of the living Christ. Men find it not at all difficult to believe that the fullness of the Godhead bodily dwelleth in Jesus, but they do find it difficult to believe that it also dwelleth in themselves. Yet this God has done. He has, in the bestowal of the Christ flame, placed the fullness of himself in every son and daughter. While the divine nature is properly understood, then how easily humanity can bring forth the anticorona, and thus begin the process of correctly weaving their life manifestation. Now, as man studies the science of perfecting the aura, he should also understand that through the misqualification of thought and feeling, many undesirable traits are brought into manifestation. Most dangerous of all is misqualification in the emotional body of man, in the feeling world, for thereby the heart is touched and in turn often sways the whole life record of the individual into a miasma of doubt and questioning. I do not say that the sincere student does not have the right to question or even to doubt, but I do say that once the truth is clearly presented to him, if the door of his heart be open, he will never doubt and never question the truth of the living God. He may not leap over the hurdle, but he will clearly perceive that it can truly be that he will be able, that he is able to realize more of God than that which his present awareness allows. Let us free humanity by right knowledge from all that has bound them and blinded to their own great inner power, to the treasure house God has locked within this consciousness. Now, I want to make very certain that all understand the misqualification in the feeling world, such as anger, self-righteousness, fear, hatred, jealousy, condemnation, and resentment, gives a certain leverage to the power of amplification. This is similar to the transponder system on your large aircraft. When the transponder button is pushed by the pilot, it triggers a signal from the transponder, which causes an enlarged blip to appear upon the electronic board of the airport traffic controller, thereby enabling the plane to be easily identified. Thus, do the emotions of mankind often falsely amplify misqualified thoughts and feelings to the point where a dominant position is assumed by those misqualified feelings. Although this takes place without the consent of the real being of man, nevertheless, darkness does then cover the earth. Yet Christ has said, I am the light of the world. I have given you many thoughts in my first release on the studies of the human aura. The brothers of the golden robe will joyously respond to the depth of his wisdom, which we shall receive in the completed series. From the archives of the Brotherhood, our love pours forth. Okay, so that was chapter 1. How was that? Michael's looking to get himself unmuted. There we go.
Yes, thank you very much. Very good. With some, I think, important foundational ideas.
Yes, most certainly. And I know we're going to talk more about it when we actually have listened to the second piece in there. But I feel like it's so significant about the misqualification of emotional energy and the need to help people really understand how to work with their emotions, given the fact that the Mental Health Act is a weapon that could be used against people if their emotions are off, I believe. And so I'm trying to gather some information from others that have deeper understandings, and then the fact that this also then brought in the misqualification of emotions also then just seems relevant to me, although I'm not sure if anybody else has something else that came to mind that you'd like to share before we move to the second chapter.
There's a lot of concepts that that are poured into this first lesson by Kuthumi. I'm just aware that could be not for tonight because it's not what is being prepared. Just to have a notion for everyone, some notion of all these concepts, just a very short resume would be nice, just for the people, just say, oh, this part, because it's like very dense. At the same time, it's very simple also, but it's because there's a lot of new concept in it that but the whole thing, I just enjoy listening to the text instead of reading it. So that's right.
Yeah. One thing that I will say is that I have now become extremely aware of my need to make sure that audio is not good enough. Like just kind of like making sure that like if there's a section that was not good, that then when I tried to like insert something in its place, and then that sounds completely different because everything changes about the environment, the mic condition, static in the background, sounds behind, all of the factors that kind of surround the audio. So it's just like, okay, so this is the pilot program. And this is the first time that we're going through this. And then the next time we go through it, I'm going to reread them live. And then we'll have the recording of that when we actually have that resume broke down, so that we can actually help people digest each of the chapters, the sections. We can take the, smorgasbord of choice that we have in terms of content to digest, and then break it down into, appetizers, soups, main course, desserts, the stuff you eat after the dessert when like there's nothing else, but you'll kind of like drizzle it down into the cracks. I thought you were going to say something, Francoise.
No, that's fine. I'm just listening.
Beautiful. All right. Well, so
In terms of sound, if I can, one thing that's often done in the film world is they'll have somebody record ambient sound because it's different, and so they'll have a bit of recording that you might keep of the ambient sound when you did it, so that if you wanted to go back and overdub something, you could combine the ambient sound with the new recording and be able to come up with something that's a little closer. There isn't that stark change that isn't the voice, but it's the other things that are underlying.
That is so clever, Michael. And I'm glad you said that, because in 2017, I connected with Brenda Williams, who actually created the triad wave with some other people who basically worked to find the heart's the heart's frequency. The heart wave frequency is what it's called. They call it the triad wave. And then they actually have the triad wave as a soundtrack that I've had the privilege of having access to over the last 5 years, nearly 4 years. And it dawns on me that I can play that in the background in order to actually share it and also be able to oh, that's so exciting. I need to talk to her, because there was a change of hands in terms of who was the keeper of the flame, ironically enough, with the triad wave, who was the keeper of the wave. And so there was a transition or a transfer of the keeper that was happening, as to why I'm not sure whether I am able to use it in terms of being able to underlay it into my work, which was the reason that I got it in the first place. Because she had done an interview on Gaia TV and had asked for leaders to step forward who were willing to embed this triad wave into our work to be able to amplify the frequency of the message. So it was working with all of the sound manipulation that is being used against us if we're not conscious of it. So this is actually the triad wave that Brenda Williams shared with me. Can you hear it in the background? Francoise, you look like you're making faces, so I'm not sure what your face is about. Jerry, I can't hear you because you're muted.
I'm hearing music and I'm trying to follow what you're saying.
Is it too much for you guys?
For me, it's a little bit too much because it's like go over your voice.
Yes. Okay. No problem. I can reduce that. Jerry, what were you trying to say? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. But what I wanted to ask her is, I noticed you have it recorded on Facebook. Is that right? You on Facebook? Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Now, I noticed, remember when you sent out the recording to us before, you sent it to us for us to listen. I noticed on that was very clear.
Right.
And whereas this is different. Like it seems to be not an echo, but there seems to be, is it the platform maybe? Like, I don't know, is there another way? Mind you, it sounds very good. By the way, you read very nicely. You do this very well. I want to say it first of all. But I just wondered about the platform, like recording. Like, is this is there any other ways that it can be recorded? Or, because I don't know, you know more about this than I do. And Michael probably knows more about this, but I just was asking.
Well, we might be experiencing some feedback as well if some of us have more than one person has their mic on.
Okay.
That can, depending on the situation, affect Facebook or some of these other teleconferencing pretty heavily.
Laura's reading it very nicely read. And yeah, it's very nice. Very nice.
Amazing. Well, thank you for the support and the love. And we're gonna go in. Is it too distracting to have the triad wave in the back? I should have looked over onto Facebook to see if anybody's commented over there or if anybody has any questions.
Personally, it's a bit distracting. If I want to listen to what you are reading and catch the ID and concentrate on that, this music would be too much for me.
Okay.
I don't know for others. Let's say if it would be on a mode of meditation, maybe that would be nice. But it's not really on the mode of meditation because you're reading something that we're trying to understand and to catch. So personally, I would say.
Okay, well then what we'll do is we'll let the first wave, which is 4 minutes in duration, play out, which is going to happen in the next 10 seconds. Because they say that with the triad wave, you shouldn't break the wave. So, if we were to underlay this into anything, it would be a situation where we couldn't actually cut something. Do you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be able to interrupt it without it interrupting the flow of the frequency. It's like when you're in a space and something profoundly magnificent has happened and you can just feel it, and then somebody speaks and suddenly it's gone because of how the word dissipates the frequencies of what can rise if we give it space to unfold, if that makes sense.
And it would seem to me, well, happy to listen to it. It would seem to me if you want to combine this in a future tape, you probably want to add it as a separate track where you can change the volume, as opposed to have it be while you're reading or while you're playing the recording. Because once those are combined, if you did decide you needed to go back and change something, as we discussed before, it would be very difficult to get the exact, I mean, ambient sound is one thing, but trying to get the exact place of the music also at the right volume would be tricky. And of course, that's a challenge that you've got here. I guess it's different streaming on Facebook, but when you're trying to create it as a production, there's a lot to that, and it's a tricky job. So it's good to separate those things, because that can make it easy to recover.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So it's all a learning game. And the thing that I want to emphasize in doing this is, yes, I have had training over the last decade to be able to do this. So I have an advantage that way. But I want to also say that, like, I am doing it and not everything's perfect about it, and I'm doing it anyway. And that is an example to you, because as Kuthumi said in chapter 1, example is the best teacher. We really need to just be willing to do that which we seek and say in this world. We need to be willing to put action behind it, which is why the law of attraction have those 6 letters as the most important ones in the whole attraction theory. So we'll dig into the next chapter. Chapter 2, the susceptibility of the aura. Continuing auric studies, we examine the influences of the world upon the human monad. Man is a creature of simple design, yet complex in the externalization of that design. Little do men realize, when first they ponder the nature of themselves, the ramifications of the consciousness of each individual. The influences of the world, the thoughts of the world, the feelings of humanity are easily transmitted consciously or unconsciously from person to person. And in the transmittal of thoughts and feelings, neither sender nor receiver has any guarantee that the patterns of his intent will be preserved intact. If the light that is in man that he transmits is undesirable, those who are easily made the victim of his thoughts and feelings are those who are naturally affinitized with him, may reproduce the effects of those thoughts and feelings in their own worlds. So many in the world today are victims of the thoughts of others, even thoughts from other eras, which endure because mankind have fed their attention and their energies into them. In effect, it can be said that man has endowed either his evil or his good deeds with a semi-permanent existence, and that the consciousness of good and evil partaken of by Adam and Eve, because it has been perpetuated by his free will, is living in man today. Yet through a return to the Edenic consciousness of God, man is able to find the tree of life, which is in the midst thereof, and to eat of the fruit and live forever. There is much that we shall transmit in our studies, but first we must ask that the students approach them with the right attitude in order that we may create a climate of the practical use of right knowledge. Through the ages that have passed, from spiritual innocence to worldly contamination, men have seldom observed the recycling process by which there have been regurgitated upon the screen of life a flood of undesirable qualities. Both world and individual problems have been prolonged entirely because of the vibrational patine of blackened and tarry substance with which man has coated his very being and then refused to surrender. It is time humanity began to examine themselves as individuals having a creative potential, which they may use to influence the auras of others, and which in turn makes them susceptible to influences from others, both good and bad. Thoughts of love, joy, and peace, divine thoughts created in the hearts of the saints and the angelic hosts, should never be avoided, but should be enhanced by the magnetic force field of the aura. Men can learn from one another, and their auric emanations can benefit from contact with those whose auras are filled with virtue. Because it is just as easy for the aura to absorb vice as it is to absorb virtue, the individual must understand how this process of thought and feeling transmittal can help or hinder him in his daily occupation. Because people are so completely unaware of the effects of the mass consciousness, as well as the mental pressures from neighbors and friends, we continue to stress the importance of using the violet transmuting flame and the tube of light as effective deterrents to the penetration of the aura by undesirable qualities and to their effects upon the mind and being. Needless to say, I am determined to transmit in this series definite information that shall make it easier for the soul within man to hold dominion over his life pattern, thus improving the quality of the human aura. Unless this be done, great pain and suffering will undoubtedly come to humanity, and that unnecessarily. The Brothers of the Golden Robe, in their devotions and study of the holy wisdom of God, have recently considered that a clearer revelation of matters involving the human aura would make it possible for more individuals who are oriented around spiritual knowledge to be assisted and to assist others, hence this series. Now, without question, there are problems manifesting in the world wholly as a result of the individual's contact with the auric field or force field of embodied humanity. Therefore, defenses must be clearly shown. They must be understood at the level of the individual. In addition to that, methods of projecting the consciousness or the force field out of the physical body and to others in one's immediate family or circle of friends must be understood and then effectively mastered as a means of sending hopeful light rays of cosmic service to those who, while in need of assistance, have no idea whatsoever that such possibilities exist. Although people are brought under the benign or harmful power of various auric manifestations and force fields, they do not understand how this is done, and many times they are unaware that it is being done. It is not a question of scientific marvel to them or one of strange phenomena. They simply do not know that it exists, but we do. Working effectively with this knowledge from a wholly constructive standpoint, the angelic hosts and brothers of the Golden Robe yearn to see the day manifest when humanity, one and all, will understand how they may use this beneficent force of the human aura in a correct and proper manner. For they will see that the aura is designed to be a reflector of good to all whom they meet and to the world at large. Those skilled in mortal hypnotism and seductive practices have a partial knowledge of the use of auric and force field projections, and they do achieve limited results that lend credence to their work in the minds of some whose goals are likewise limited. As our beloved Master Jesus once said, the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. In conference with us, beloved Jesus has made very clear that in making that statement, it was never his intention to see this condition prevail. Rather, it was his promise to all who believed in the Christ, greater works shall ye do, because I go on to my Father. Thus it is the will of God that each generation should attempt to improve the quality of the abundant life upon the planetary body through every available means that is in keeping with the teaching and practice of the Christ. It has been our intent in these first two releases to give certain vital bits of information on our subject. Later in the series, we shall develop that understanding of our instruction, which, if correctly applied, can change your life and the lives of countless numbers among mankind, because they will be better able to appreciate and to follow the way of truth and the way of hope. Do you know how many individuals there are in the world today who, by reason of their ignorance on these very subjects, become the victims of the manipulators? Well, beloved ones, there are many, I assure you, and I do not want the graduates from our class to ever again be among them. Let me then go back to the basic principles of Ascended Master Law by citing for all the need to use your tube of light and the violet transmuting flame is the greatest protection you can ever have against the forces of manipulation. How very dominant, God-endowed, and beautiful are the fragments of divine knowledge that have been received by you thus far. Do you truly meditate upon them? Do you make them a part of your life? Or do you find them to be entertaining flowers that somehow the mind takes a fancy to? Beloved ones, I want to prepare you for a most tremendous piece of information, which I will transmit to you in a forthcoming lesson. But I want to make certain that when you receive this concept, which I will bring to you, you meditate upon it like a flower. Therefore, prepare yourselves in your meditations for this concept, which I assure you will give you a very concrete idea beyond the mechanical as to just how you can accomplish the purification of your aura. Without this knowledge that I am about to reveal, a great deal more time could very well elapse before you would truly understand the real freedom you have and how to use it for the blessing of all life. When you divinely apply the wisdom of the Great White Brotherhood to the correct manifestation of reality in your world, I am certain that the improvement of your aura and in the quality of your life will be very great indeed. Remember that I want you to be a flower, a rose, or a lotus, waiting in the swamplands of life to receive the precious drops of truth that heaven has prepared for you. If you will do this, I am certain that you will need no further proof of the reality of your being, of the unfolding kingdom that is within you, and of how you can take dominion over that kingdom as God intended in a way that is safe, sane, and correct. When there are so many books being written today, so many words being released into the stream of mankind's consciousness, which are almost a complete abortion of the divine intent, I must urge you to appreciate the opportunity we are releasing to you today. I remain devoted to your heart's light. And that is Chapter 3, The Colorations of the Aura. All right. We've got the next chapters ready there. I have room for improvement in the audio, and so that's good to know. And so more importantly though is the actual content of the human aura. So I feel like with this, now that we've shared the experience of going over it for the first multiple times, I don't know how many times you've read the book yourselves, who are in the screen, and then also who are watching on the other side of the camera there. But definitely would love to hear what that meant to you and what that meant for you.
Well, I think there's really important points made there, and we're, as humans, very much creatures of habit, and those habits extend to our emotions. We tend to feel the same things, and we know people who feel the same way all the time, and think similar thoughts, a similar train of thought, and so if those are off, we have to live with them. And I think those are some of the misqualifications that are being described here, as you're taking some an emotional energy and providing it a quality, which is whatever emotion you have, and we do that and have the power to put whatever emotions we want in there. I remember being in an improv class, and they would just give you the motion to have, and you'd act with that one. But we're also almost like guitar strings in a way, so we can sense those things as well. So in the same way that you would tune a guitar by plucking it and using a synthetic vibration, you can tell the strings will start to vibrate if they're at the same frequency as one that's already vibrating. We can sense those motions coming from other people, and if they're a little harsh, then we not only feel them, but there's the tendency to push that back out again. Is just to start qualifying your emotions with the one that you felt, and that may not be what you want or a great idea. So, and it would definitely take some discipline to avoid doing that, especially if they're aggressive things. So it's enlightening material, and but also it's material that needs to be worked on to gain mastery.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole 10,000, it takes 10,000 hours in order for someone to become an expert. And it's just like mastery takes time. And it's just like after the 10,000 hours, that's when somebody tends to become an overnight success, because suddenly all of their efforts leading up to the moment they actually get recognized in a performance they absolutely nailed because of all of the years they worked towards being ready to nail that performance and be noticed by the right person that had the right contacts to be able to actually get it out there. It's just like mastery takes time, and yet we live in this world where we're only there to hear about the accolades. And so when we actually break it down, it's just like this is taking it away from just that external accolades, and this is actually making it about the internal. And see how the screen lights up. It's just like this is time for us to go inward and to understand our energetic body, and the fact that we are operating in a literal world, but also a symbolic, mythic, and literal, or energetic world, rather. We can't have two literal worlds, or what are you going to do? But to have extra energy is always good, so long as we're intentional about where we actually direct that energy. Or it is the energy in motion that makes up the emotion of the four lower bodies that include the emotional body, right?
I think that's where our free will is playing its part. It's we can choose. I like the idea. One of the masters said each one of us can be the flute in the hand of the master. So we can choose to be in the hands of the light of the master playing the music through us, or we can choose to be a flute playing what is being played in the world that is just bringing us into a vibration that is not in harmony with our soul purpose, let's say our life purpose as a spirit. So yeah, somewhere I don't remember exactly if we in that chapter 2 we talk about that, but all these vibration, it's somewhere we have to choose which vibration we want to convey or to accept in ourselves in order to transmit that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love that too, because it really points out, where are you getting your energy from? What source? It's just like there's the direct connection when you have a strong tube of light and you've got the violet flame around your humanly self burning bright and helping transmute the karma of yourself and then also the collective at the same time. And then you've got that direct connection to the Christ consciousness and the I am that I am that helps us carry a picture of God above us, so that we're never alone, truly, because we've always got that image that is unique to us, because we are the individuated expression of the grand overall designer that came here to experience and express itself as us. So when we think about ourselves in those terms, it's just like we're direct connected in terms of the socket, like we're right in there. But when you have Luciferian energy of false light coming into that free will, that's when then you have almost like an umbrella between you and source. So it's just like there's a shadow, there's something in between us and our ability to get it direct. And so that's when then I believe that we become more vampirous towards others, because we're not getting it direct anymore. So now we're looking for other people to feed us.
We are receivers and we are givers. We are, I would say, as a crux point, but what we are receivers, we have to choose what we want to receive, and what we want to give. So it's also a matter of free will. So there's always a point of consciousness where we know where we are turning our mind to receive something, and where we are turning our mind to give something. And So we are, I would say, at the center of something that is moving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the CIA, they wrote a report called The Gateway Process that actually talks about the black and white hole. And essentially, we are the center point. And that report came after torturing humans and pushing them to their absolute limits for 20 years to figure out, you know, what humans are capable of. And many of them, you know, were pushed over the edge and, you know, sent into psychiatric breaks and all the rest of it, because they did use psychedelics to be able to pierce them through the veils, and, as the masters call it, storm the gates of heaven. And so a lot of these poor souls actually paid, and maybe that was part of their karmic plan or whatever the situation was. The Gateway Process report is the result of all of those experiments, and ultimately it's all posted in a really interesting report that talks about balancing the right and left hemispheres. And they call that hemisync. And that's kind of like when you experience that altered state of being fully present, present in this moment, aligned with the now moment, that is just like you're fully switched on and all circuits are connected. It's like you don't have that in between, that shade or that shadow or that something in between you and direct source connection. Now there's nothing in between what's actually firing and wiring within us. And that's when we then have access to all of us, when we're really tuned in. And that's, they call that hemisync in the CIA Gateway Process report. So,
well, this gateway process is really human. It has nothing to do with the light or with God, because the only way we are free is when we go into our heart, and this is where we can contact God. It has nothing to do with exterior way of things and doing things, because it's, I would say, that the spark of God is in the heart. So this is the only way to go if we want to be in contact really with our God presence, our Christ self. So I know all these experiences that I don't feel very good about because some people have paid their life and have suffered for these experts to come to their conclusion. It has nothing to do with the consciousness, the real consciousness.
Well, without going into political or dangerous territory, look at the trials that are going to complete in 2023. And, you know, that's going to have a lot of consequences. And that is a direct attack on our will and a direct attack on our Christos consciousness as well. Yeah. And I don't know whether you're comfortable having that conversation, because certainly it's not been intended with just covering these two chapters, but you know how I like to flow right into the good stuff. So it just keeps on coming. And so certainly either we could have that out now, but what I'm feeling is that this first session of the Human Aura by Kuthumi certainly attracts great quality people who have done incredible things and learned a tremendous amount to be able to have a high level of conversation and engagement and discussion around what was written, and includes light codes within it because of the content and the caliber of information that, when it is read and saturates your consciousness, it uplifts you and takes you to a level that you didn't have access before, because you hadn't access to the key that would get you into that door of your own consciousness, because it is like that spiral staircase, they say, right? So we could all dig a lot deeper, and I'm certainly one of the newbies in the teachings of the Ascended Masters compared to anyone that is in the view right here tonight. So I want to honor the fact that it is an hour allotment, and then I also want to say that if each of you would care to give an introduction to yourself briefly and why you showed up for this first mastermind on the human aura by Kuthumi, I would love for people to be able to recognize your friendly face and to be able to be somebody that people know they can reach out to with questions if they so feel called. Jerry, do you want to start? You're muted.
I got so used to muting myself when I'm listening, and I sometimes forget to take that off. Anyways, yeah, my name's Jerry, and I'm on the CUTAC board. That's the Church Universal Travel Associated Canada board, and of course on this on a committee that sort of has approved, of course, the starting of this series on the human aura. And Francoise talked about choice. It is our choice, choice what we do, and what we choose to read, and what we choose to do in our life. But I would say that I think I would like to say that I think this was a very good choice to pick this series to begin. It's Human Aura. It's a wonderful series, and I have to admit that I have not read the book fully myself. I do have it. It's on my bookshelf here, but I'm going to make a point now. I want to go back. It was nice to hear Laura read the first 2 chapters, and because I want to review it myself. And but anyways, I just want to say, you wanted to say a little bit about myself. I've been in the teachings for a little while. I'm at the Toronto Teaching Center. Right at the moment, I'm the president of the Toronto Teaching Center of our board. So, but anyway, say hello to everyone, and I'll pass it on now to someone else.
Thank you, Jerry. Fantastic. Francoise, would you like to go next, please?
No, I will leave the place to Michael.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Michael, and I had the pleasure of putting the website together. So that was exciting to do with, of course, with some help from others, and it was great to go through. While I was doing that, I did review all the material, and it's really like a wisdom that you bathe in when you read it. So it's something to go back to and go over again to find out the things that you might not have understood the first time, because the language is, if the ideas are new to you, and the language, which is still decades old, might be a little bit different, and the concepts become more and more clear as you read it again and again. So I encourage people to visit the website, and of course listen to Laura reading it, because that's another way of absorbing the information and to benefit from what has been released.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for everything you did as well to make Higher Consciousness.ca available as well. So I'm just going to quickly, before it's your turn, share. And it leads back to summitlighthouse.org. Each of the chapters go back to Summit Lighthouse, which is who actually produced the books, with Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who are the messengers that founded Summit Lighthouse, and then the Human Aura, and also the teachings of Saint Germain on alchemy, which are the second book that is another 2-in-1. Those are all under Summit Lighthouse, and then we've been given the opportunity to use it under the 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca. So if you save that website, then you will have full access to the whole book. You don't have to come here and listen to me read it and then talk with other phenomenal people about it. But why would you not if you could? Which we'll be doing again next Thursday at 8 o'clock again. So definitely please do come back for more of the human aura. And in the meantime, we're going to save the grand finale to Francoise.
Oh. Okay. It's such a joy to just read it. I read it at least twice. Now I'm listening to you reading it, and I just like I'm discovering something new every time and because I find this teaching so important for the heart, for the spirit, for the soul. I work translating this in French for the French keepers of the flame, the French light bearers, people speaking French who are interested to those things of the spirit and of the heart, and finding a way to live into this world, but find a meaning, an inner meaning for each one of us. So it's really a great to just read it again and hear it again from somebody else, and just share that again. That's really wonderful, because that's part of the wisdom, and that's part of the love and the beauty of this teaching.
Most certainly. And Francoise, you have an ability to translate the teachings from English into your native tongue, which is French. And you live in Quebec, or is it not your native tongue?
Montreal.
You're in Montreal, born and raised?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Francoise, thank you for everything that you do to be able to make the teachings available to French speakers in a way that wouldn't be if you weren't willing to devote your time, energy, effort, attention, money to translating the teachings to be able to share them with the people that may not be able to read English but do French. You're wanting to
when I started to do the translation, I was not really good at it. But I felt such a need, and there I say I cannot keep all these treasures just for me. I was just happy to read them and take them and eat them, and but I said I cannot keep that just for me. And I just felt there was a need, and I was not really good at the beginning, but I became, because I was so I would say almost exalted just to translate that in French and to share that with the people who would like to do that. Right now, I'm not the only one who is doing that, but there's a publishing house that have at least more than 24 books in French of all these teachings. So, we all started like you do tonight, just trying, making the first step, and then the rest is coming up.
Yes, and you also could use some help in the translating department. And so this is really a message to anybody that's listening that may be a French speaker, English speaker, translator, somebody that is able to really navigate between the two languages and would like to be able to translate the teachings. If you would like to actually connect with Francoise and be able to help in that process so that more of the teachings are getting transcribed, then Francoise, I'm sure, would be eager to speak with you, and she would be of great assistance. And actually, in the fall, our intention is to also potentially run a French version of the human aura. And at some point, we may even do some language lessons of sorts, which is just a creative idea.
Yes, it's creative.
But at the same time, everything starts as an idea and then gets born if it's an idea that was continually watered. And so I water it again tonight by simply saying that if the human aura interested you tonight, if the conversation that has been taking place around it has interested you tonight, then please make sure that you make yourself available for next Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Again, we will gather in the same Zoom room. And so we would love to see you here, to have you introduce yourself, and then to be able to listen to chapters 3 and 4 next week. So we're going to work through this entire book together, and it has been an absolute pleasure to be with everyone tonight. Thank you so much.